listener production.
Hey, Tara Cassidy with you and welcome to The Briefing. Today we're giving you another bonus episode of Crime in Focus Killer Charm, which centres around the horrific woodchipper murder of Bruce Saunders and his ex, the suburban grandmother Sharon Graham, who was accused of orchestrating the whole ordeal. Killer Charm is brought to you by me, investigative journalist Tara Cassidy, and the Listener Crime Team, and has also just been named as a finalist in this year's Kennedy Awards for Excellence in Journalism for Most Outstanding Podcast. I spent 5 years following this murder case and uncovered new information and evidence that had never been heard before this series. Last week, we played you episode 1, so if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and check it out first. And if you want to hear all 6 episodes now, there's a link in the show notes, or you can search Crime in Focus Killer Charm wherever you get your podcasts. Here's episode 2.
A warning. This podcast contains descriptions of a violent crime. Listener discretion is advised.
Across Queensland on Triple M, this is the Rush Hour. You're with AB and Elliot. Joining us now, one of the bigwigs from our Triple M newsroom on a case that is currently in court at the moment, a horrendous story out of the Gympie region. Tara Cassidy, can you please give us a bit of an update from back in 2017 with what happened and where we're at now?
Yeah, absolutely, Elliot. So in 2017, news outlets were first alerted by authorities to what at the time they were saying was just a horrific industrial accident that had happened at a semi-rural property where a man had been killed when he fell into a woodchipper while clearing trees with 2 other men. But months later, it turned into a murder investigation, and police now allege that a grandmother from the region...
Even after so many years, I still find it odd hearing myself on the job, reporting the news. I sound like a different person, one who's more formal and focused on staying impartial, showing little emotion and no opinion, because the story is never about me. That's not the job. Yet sometimes I cover stories that I can't help but take home with me. They've changed the way I see the world, the way I behave. The ones that leave the biggest imprint are always those that take an emotional toll, where I've witnessed families during the worst chapter of their lives, in heartache and grief. The ones where you know nothing you can say, do, or report can help.
There was definitely family members and former colleagues.
In this series, though, I get to share more of the real me. I can tell you what I truly felt and thought about the case. Sitting through Sharon Graham's murder trial, I got to meet people who know more about this than I could report at the time. I was there every day, and I'll take you in and out of the courtroom to share the full story of how and why a suburban grandmother from Queensland orchestrated the murder of her ex-partner. This is Crime in Focus, Killer Charm, Episode 2. I've booked a meeting room, Tara Cassidy. Remember how I mentioned there were 2 Sharons in this story? And that they were best friends? It's time I really delved into their friendship to make sure you know who's who. I've driven 5 hours to see one of the Sharons, Sharon Baton. She was the owner of the Gomborian property you heard about last episode, where Bruce Saunders was killed. She's moved interstate to a regional town now, and I'm meeting her at her local district services club. Oh, hey Sharon, hello. You're here early. Good on you. You're more on time than us.
Oh, no, that's all right. I only live
It's like around the corner.
Oh, that's so good. When I arrive, she's already waiting for me, wearing tortoiseshell glasses, some dainty jewellery, a patterned black top and jeans. She's short, with a cropped white bob, and a kind face.
So we're basically not a tourist town, but we do have big events.
And so people come here from overseas and like interstate and stuff?
Yeah, and they bring their wedding dresses and they take photos with the jacarandas in bloom. And
I know Sharon pretty well by now. We sat near each other for most of Sharon Graham's murder trial. She was actually the first witness called by the prosecution. Sharon's evidence was fact-based. She was there to answer strict legal questions. There was no opinion, no backstory. Her sweet personality didn't have a chance to shine through.
And I always said to myself when I was young, from the age of 13, when I have children, they're going to know I love them. And I hope I achieved that with them.
You might also remember Sharon Baton's a widow. Her husband Andrew only passed away a couple of months before Bruce's death. Sharon and Andrew lived on the semi-rural property at Gamborian, Queensland, when Sharon Graham came into their lives. Sharon Baton remembers meeting Sharon Graham at the local shopping centre. She doesn't remember the exact date, but it's around 2010.
So then we started talking and shared the same love as what we did with rock and roll dancing, and we hit it off. She would invite us over and we'd go to her place, and that's how it all started.
Sharon Graham had recently moved to Queensland. Before long, the two Sharons became close friends and even classed each other as family. It didn't matter to their other mates that they were both named Sharon. Sharon Graham had a distinctive nickname.
I was always Sharon and the other Sharon was always Muffy or Muffin.
It was even on her number plate, Muffin 1. Sharon Baton says she loved Muffin's confidence and how she stood out from the crowd.
She was very trendy. I just thought, oh my gosh, this girl can groove type thing. She likes to have really lovely clothes, and I used to say to her sometimes, oh, you'll have to teach me fashion because I'm a shocker at fashion. If you see her photos on the internet, you can see how she likes to present herself. There was never a strand out of place with that girl.
I do look her up on the internet. Sharon Graham, Muffin. Her Facebook's filled with selfies of her posing for the camera with her bleach blonde cropped hair, full face of makeup and tattooed brows. She's in her late 50s and has a distinctive style. Think tight clothes, bold patterns and flashy accessories. In fact, the only thing granny-like about Muffin's profile is that she's added those flower borders and theme frames to her pictures. To me, if Sharon Baton looks like your typical sweet grandmother next door, Sharon Graham looks more like your edgy older auntie who might sneak you an underage drink at the family barbecue. Hearing Sharon Baton describe the beginning of their friendship, it sounds like she was truly in awe of Sharon Graham. She found her magnetic.
She just seemed to have that aura about her where people were drawn into her personality because it was just exuberant. She just loved to be around people. She loved to make people feel happy.
Often that looked like spoiling her friends, shouting dinners, buying gifts, even when they insisted there was no need.
She'd say, come shopping with me. And you go shopping and, you might be looking at something. Next minute she'll be buying it. And I say, no, don't buy that. She said, no, I'm going to. She was a bit money orientated, but she wasn't a selfish woman like that. She liked the stature of being able to have it, but also give it.
Sharon Graham didn't move to Queensland alone. One of the people she moved with was a guy called Peter Koenig. You've heard his name already. He was one of the men working with Bruce the night he died.
And we thought Peter was her husband, Because Peter was with her every time we basically went out. There was Sharon, Peter, Andrew and myself. So we thought, she said, no, we're just like brother and sister. I said, oh, okay, cool. I had no reason to doubt her or disbelieve her, but we found out a few weeks later that it wasn't her husband.
Muffin had also moved to Queensland with her partner at the time, and Peter was a bit of a third wheel. She and her then partner broke up a few years after the move, but Peter, he was always by Sharon's side. The loyal best friend who stuck with her, moved cities when she did, and always had a room to crash in at her house. He's a constant figure in her life. Even as Sharon Graham gets back on the dating scene and other men come and go.
She got all her men off the internet, except for one that I know of, but I don't think she ever really loved any of them. Like, she would do the things that she felt a woman had to do, like cook and clean and, meet their needs and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think she loved them. I don't think she knew how to.
Sharon Baton puts this down to something from Muffin's past.
I think something happened back in her life where she'd been rejected so many times that for her it was protect myself. So she would not emotionally open up. She would with her friends, but she couldn't do it with her partner. That's how I see it.
Did she find it difficult to find new partners?
No. She went on a dating site and she would have one just like that.
And how quick would they usually progress?
They were all very quick, where she met them, said that she loved them, and they loved her and they had a good heart, but then moved straight in with them. And we would be thinking, what are you doing? Andrew would say, take time. You don't know these men. And she says, yes, I do. They're good, they're really lovely and they love me. And she used to say to me, I can't be without a man. And I said, honey, you can. We're here, we'll support you. But she said, I can't live without having a man in my life. And that was really sad to us.
Is it behind us? I don't know if she's got a dog or anything. No, seeing as it was open. Okay. Hello. Hi. I'm good. I was looking just before. I used to live just around the corner from here. Yeah, in there's like these apartments when you I've come to meet Rebecca, Sharon Graham's daughter, at her home on the Gold Coast. She was a witness at the trial for the prosecution, willingly speaking against her mother about key pieces of evidence, which you'll hear more about later. But right now, I want to know more about Sharon's life and early years to get a sense of what she was like as a mother. Rebecca's in her late 30s with her hair in a bun, and she's wearing a casual girly dress with a denim jacket. We sit down on her living room couch. There's a big black and white portrait of her 5-year-old son smiling across from me as we chat. Thank you for bringing my chat to us today. Okay.
Do you mind if I vape?
No.
Okay, I'm having a beer as well. So nervous.
Yeah, I thought you might be feeling a bit nervous. That's normal and fine. We can stop as many times as you want. I want you to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It turns out Sharon wasn't much of a mother to Rebecca.
So she left when I think I was 11 months. I don't know, I've got mixed stories on the time frame.
Rebecca says she was raised by her dad, then later her stepmum, and didn't see her mum Sharon again for another 10 years.
I said to my dad, I really want to know my mum. So he made contact with her mum, when she was still alive and arranged for me to meet Sharon. So when I met her when I was 14, she had a child with her, and she's a foster parent. And I just can never wrap my head around that, how you can give your own children away and then take on other people's children was a bit mind-blowing, but obviously that was for the money. She didn't want me. She said it was too stressful for her.
After meeting Sharon at 14, Rebecca tells me she doesn't see her mum again until she's in her 20s, when she receives a message online.
I was about to turn 28 and I got a Facebook message from the Salvation Army saying that my mum was trying to connect with me. And that blew me away because I had always wanted to know my mum. So, of course, I jumped at that opportunity. And we met, like, pretty quickly after that. So the very first meeting, she didn't meet me on her own. I showed up on my own. She had, like, a group around her, and it was the most awkward meeting. And from that very moment, I had a feeling of unease, like, this doesn't seem to be the way I would have approached it. Yeah, I just imagined that when we reunited that she would be very, remorseful and do anything to, like, make me feel loved by her. And it was the opposite. It was very strange.
I start to feel for Rebecca, and what Sharon Baton said about Sharon Graham's inability to love comes to mind.
I went through a lot of therapy initially. I didn't want to pursue the relationship with her not long into it because I started to see who she really was, like, not who she presents herself to be, but I could see through her clearly, where everyone around her just seemed to think she was this amazing, beautiful person.
But Rebecca pushes through. Her longing to have a mum was strong enough that she was willing to overlook the past and some of Sharon's troubling behaviours. Even though they were now spending time together and growing their relationship, Rebecca says she wasn't blind to her mother's ways and had a theory on how she kept her inner circle.
But really, I believe it was just a manipulation. Like, she just bought these people. Like, she tried to do that with me too. The gifts she would give me were so over the top. That was so overwhelming. Like, my first Christmas or birthday with her, it was like a bedroom full of gifts. And I'm not talking cheap gifts. I'm like expensive fridges, beds, like, to me, it felt like that was her way of trying to win me.
And so would she work? How did she financially support herself?
Good question. I seriously was like, how does this woman have so much money?
I find out Sharon Graham was on a disability pension after getting injured in a crash once. Rebecca says her mum also made a small income doing office work for one of her partners. It's something, but certainly not enough to account for the lifestyle I'm learning about. At one point, Sharon even offers to buy Rebecca a house if she gets pregnant. How would she afford a house to give you?
Probably her next victim, her next man, I don't know. I really don't know how much money she had. I just know that it appeared like she had a lot.
As you can hear from Rebecca's tone, she's disapproving of her mum's behaviour. She's watched Sharon pursue multiple men over the years. And I ask what attributes her mum looks for in a partner.
No attributes, nothing, just money. She would only ever go for who appeared to have money. She probably did the same what she did with me, like, over the top with her love, so to speak. Like true narcissists, I guess, like they love bomb and they make out to be this amazing person, and then it all kind of crumbles.
Men aside, Rebecca did her best to maintain a relationship with her mum. At times it was difficult, and Rebecca remembers one particularly explosive argument the pair had.
And then I sent her an email and I said, no one sees the real Sharon, but I can see you clearly, and you are not a nice person at all. My mother is extremely gifted at convincing people of what she wants them to believe. So they would see me upset. They might feel sorry for me for a little bit. Then Sharon starts telling her version of whatever it is, and then they believe her. So, no, she was very, crafty. I ended up, I don't know, just sticking in it, I guess, because I just really wanted a mum. So I apologised and, put up with it. It did get easier for me because when I started to, realise that, okay, she's not hurting me now. She is who she is. She has no moral compass. That's what I just accepted. And then, I was somewhat enjoying having a relationship with her, I guess, before it all started to unfold again.
Speaking to Rebecca was emotional and enlightening. If her view of her mum is right, we're dealing with a manipulative woman who only ever looked for men with money. Her former best friend, Sharon Baton, has a more sympathetic view.
I remember her saying one time, I wished I had someone like Andrew that would wanted to hold my hand and put his arm around me and stuff like that. And she said to me, you're very, very lucky. And I said, yeah, I know I am, because she didn't have that. She felt like she was missing out on a loving relationship. She wanted someone to see her as the most beautiful person in the world to them.
So by early 2016, Sharon Graham had met Bruce Saunders, the butcher from Bundaberg, and it looked as though she'd finally found that one.
He was loving. He would hold her hand or stuff like that. He was a very, very sweet man. She thought he was wonderful. She says, oh, he's so attentive. He's just, so affectionate, so loving, and he'd do anything for her. And we thought, he'd be really good for her. It'll keep her even as well. And when you saw them together, you thought, yeah, this is a good match.
Sharon and Bruce met on the internet. And in true muffin style, things moved very quickly.
She knew Bruce, I think, 3 weeks before we found out that she was going with him. And next minute they moved in together and they went to Toowoomba.
Bruce also had a son called Blake who was living with them at home. And that became a problem for Muffin.
Blake went to Toowoomba with them and she didn't like having him there. At first she saw he just stays in his room and he's quiet. But then later on it was, I told Bruce he has to get him out of here.
Why didn't she like him?
I got no idea. She just said, I just cannot handle having him in the house. I was like, that's his son. And, she just said, no, he's got to go.
Rebecca saw it all unfold as well. It appeared to be the beginning signs of Sharon Graham's hold over Bruce.
And I couldn't believe that she would do that. But Bruce didn't see it. He was blind to it and he ended up agreeing with everything that she wanted, basically.
Sharon and Bruce were jumping from milestone to milestone, next renting a home on the Sunshine Coast at Bly Bly.
She was disgusted that she was living in a rental that was beneath her.
Less than a year after meeting, They bought a property together.
They bought the house in Nambour, and that's what she wanted. That was the goal, to get a house. So Bruce has managed to do that for her.
Bruce even bought Muffin an engagement ring, the one you heard he was so excited about last episode. The next milestone looked like it wasn't far away.
Yeah, he thought that she loved him and they wanted to get married, and she even once said to me, "Oh, you're going to be my matron of honour," and I said, "Oh, that'd be lovely. Never been someone's matron of honour before." Yeah, from what we saw, it looked good, and it looked like she'd finally found someone that she could really love. And then when they moved to Nambour, bought the house at Nambour, things started to change.
It wouldn't be long before Bruce would begin to see the side of Sharon Graham that he'd later vent to his co-workers about. The side who ends up blocking him on social media, spending his earnings, and being a constant source of anguish.
That was really sad because Bruce was just, he really loved her, really, really loved her. But she treated him so badly.
She was not nice to him at all. Not at all. She used to, take the piss out of him with whoever was there in front of him, and he would just sit there, laugh it off. And she had full control of Bruce, full control. She's never had I haven't seen her have full control over another man. But Bruce, she had him where she wanted him. He was a yes man to her.
It looked like Sharon Graham had begun abandoning plans for her and Bruce's future.
She decided that enough's enough. I don't want this anymore. And that's when she moved out of the main bedroom and went into the room that Andrew and I used to use when we were there. So then we moved down into Rebecca's room when we used to go and visit them and stay for a weekend. And the way she treated him, it wasn't very good. Not at all.
Despite Bruce being treated badly by Sharon Graham, he never gave up hope it would get better.
She was not into him for a long time before, they actually separated. You could just see it. But he was trying everything, doing, everything she wanted just to not lose her.
But Bruce's efforts didn't work on Sharon. They break up, though they keep living together, albeit in separate rooms, and Muffin starts looking for another man.
So she got on the internet and she found Greg.
Sharon Baton had liked Bruce, and she was worried about her friend moving on so quickly and falling back into a familiar pattern.
And I said to her, "Stop getting these men off the internet. It's not healthy. It's not good for you." But she had that need and she needed to have a man.
Greg Rose is in his late 50s when he meets Muffin. He's got greying hair to match his thick grey moustache and stands at 5'8" with a broad build. And yes, the name is familiar. He was the other man at the Gomborian property the night that Bruce was killed.
I think we met him a night we went out for dinner.
Initial thoughts?
Don't like you. Even Andrew, we both talked on the way home and said, no, don't like him. And right through the whole lot, we told her the truth. We said, we don't like him. He's not going to be good for you. Get rid of him. And she said, no, you've got to get to know him. He's got a beautiful heart. And we said, how long you known him for? She said, 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
And how serious did their relationship get?
Oh, very serious very quickly. I don't know whether her and Bruce were still a couple or not a couple. We just say to her, you're playing with fire, girl. She said, no, he's really good. And Andrew just said, no, he's going to be trouble.
The more I talk to those close to Sharon Graham, the more I see a pattern in her relationships. They're quick-moving, intense, and often from online dating. She chooses men who can provide for her, or at least seem like they can, and Greg was no different.
You know, he said that he had all this money because he was buying a house for her. This real estate rang him and he's come out and he says, "Oh, we've got the house, you know. I'm going to go to the bank as soon as we get home and draw out $500,000 to pay for this house." And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. I know there was just a gut feeling. And to us, it was like he was really sly, not truthful.
Turns out Greg didn't have the money. He wasn't as well off as Sharon Graham first thought. It didn't matter though. This time it was for real. Sharon Graham was in love, and for Greg, she could see past the dollar signs. The pair fell fast and hard, moving in together right away. Greg even proposes within weeks of meeting.
She took the ring that Bruce was going to use to propose to her, gave it to Greg for Greg to use to propose to her. And I said, "Mum, isn't that Bruce's? It was a family ring." And she's like, "Oh yeah, it is, but, you know, I'm so embarrassed because Greg can't buy me a ring, so we're just going to use this one for now." And I don't think Bruce knew any of that. I don't think he knew that she would never, go back with him.
Sharon even asks Bruce for her half of the house deposit back from the property they bought together just a few months prior. But her fresh start with Greg wasn't so clear-cut. Despite being in love, there were issues, like his temper. At times, he didn't treat Sharon very well. And before long, she asks Bruce to move back into the Nambour house, the one he now owned alone.
When she broke off with Greg and she said to us that her and Bruce were going to try and give it another go, but yet no, she was still seeing Greg at the same time. So we said to her one day, you know, you've got to really look at what you're doing. You can't have two. And then she chose Greg.
While Sharon tells her friends things are over with Bruce, to his face, she keeps stringing him along. Eventually, even telling him she wants to marry him again. All while celebrating her actual engagement with Greg, which was now back on.
I thought, there's no way. If she's not going to marry Bruce, who really loves her, she's not going to marry this guy either. Because all the guys, they've all wanted to probably marry her, but none of them have come through.
Sharon Baton might not have understood what her friend saw in Greg and didn't see in Bruce, but that would soon become clear during a conversation at a girl's sleepover one night. The prosecution at Sharon Graham's murder trial would go on to argue that this conversation was a clear sign of Sharon's feelings at the time and what she wanted from each of these men. Till now, you've heard a lot about Sharon Graham straight from the mouths of people close to her. But some of the things I learned in my research and reporting come from Sharon Graham's murder trial. They're statements from people who were called as witnesses, many of whom spoke for hours. And while it would take too long to hear them in full, I've kept the most relevant excerpts unedited so you can hear them fairly and accurately. One of the witnesses was Kira Baton.
Could you please tell us your full name?
Kira Lee Baton.
Can you tell us who your grandmother is?
Sharon Baton.
Kira had gone to live with Sharon Baton to support her in the months after her husband Andrew died in 2017. Kira, Sharon Baton, Muffin and another friend were at the house for a sleepover. Think a typical girls' night. Face masks, nibbles, chats and wine.
Now, what was the purpose of the girls' get-together?
Well, I didn't really plan it. I just kind of got home from work and they were there and they just said we're just going to drink some wine and have some dinner just to try and make my grandmother feel a bit better. Obviously, she was upset at the time.
Sharon Baton doesn't actually remember this night too well. She says she was lost in grief. But have a listen to what Kira remembers about the conversation that went on.
The conversation revolved heavily around Sharon Graham and the conversation she was having with the men that were in her life at the time. So Bruce Saunders, I believe, is his last name, and Greg, not sure what his last name is.
Kira tells the court Sharon is texting both men, arguing with Greg, while receiving loving messages from Bruce, wanting her to take him back.
He wanted her to go back and live with him, maybe, or something like that. And he was saying, come back with me. I'll buy you a house. Like, we'll buy a house together and I'll put it in your name. And just come back with me. Like, I love you.
All right. Now, what sort of mood was she in when she was reading out these text messages to you?
She didn't seem to be too upset. She kind of just seemed to be just entertained and a bit just, I don't know, just having a wine and relaxing. Kind of didn't seem too fussed.
According to Kira, for the next hour and a half, Sharon would continue reading out texts to the group and comparing the men to each other.
All right. Now, did she say anything about Bruce and her thoughts about him or their relationship?
Yeah, so she said that he really loved her and he was a good man, but she didn't really want to be with him as much as she wanted to be with Greg. That's the man that she said she loved, but he could be, and by he I mean Greg, could be quite aggressive and also didn't have much money and wasn't very stable. So she kind of was in a hard position choosing the man that she loved, which was Greg, or going with someone who was more stable and, in her words, had more money, which was Bruce.
Did she talk about Bruce's money other than that?
She just said that he had more money when she was kind of weighing up the options between the two men. So she was just making several remarks that Bruce was older than her and that if he passed away and she decided to go back and live with him and marry him, that then she would inherit his money because he'd most likely die first.
This conversation was said to have taken place on August 28, 2017, just under 11 weeks before Bruce was killed. As prosecutor Todd Fuller described it to the court, Sharon was in a dilemma. She had a choice to make.
Bruce wasn't good enough for her. But one thing about Bruce was good enough for her: his money. You might think that the contrast couldn't be any clearer between the two, and she chose the bad boy, the aggressive one, the one who challenged her.
While Greg was the love Sharon wanted, to her, Bruce was a means to an end. But if Bruce somehow came to not be in the picture, she could have both the money and the man. And even though Muffin didn't say it that night, the prosecutor would later allege that was exactly her plan. Next time on Killer Charm. The police find some damning forensic evidence at the crime scene and discover what Sharon Graham was doing that night.
She's not saying a word. The doctor's trying to ask her, why are you here? Why have you been brought in here? And she just keeps repeating herself. It was just meant to be a favour for my friend. Yeah, it was just out of goodwill. I'm standing there going, Mum, tell them what's happened.
And I speak to Muffin's exes to find out what she was really like as a partner.
She reckons I promised her a house. Hang on. She was buying a house down there. She put deposit on a house and reckon I told her to buy it.
Sharon has no feeling in that respect. We could say a cold heart.
All people convicted of murder related to this case have lodged their intentions to appeal the outcomes. At the point of publishing this podcast, those appeals have not progressed further. Crime in Focus Killer Charm is written and produced by me, Tara Cassidy. Produced by Romy Sher. Sound design by Nat Marshall. Fact check by Holly Mitchell. Voiceovers by Jade Murray and Dan Mullins. Theme music by Matt Nikolic. Production assistance by Ed Gooden. Story commissioning and consultation by Jennifer Goggin. Special thanks to Ellen Leabeater and Claire Weaver. This series was produced on Turrbal and Wurundjeri land. That was episode 2 of Crime in Focus Killer Charm. If you want to hear more, remember you can search Crime in Focus Killer Charm wherever you get your podcasts to listen to all 6 episodes now. And we've also popped a link for that in the show notes. That's it for this episode of The Briefing. Helen Smith and I will be back in your feed with your news headlines and a fresh deep dive tomorrow morning. I'm Tara Cassidy. See you next time.